Big Data Solutions Integration here at Dell, and we're happy to spend some time with you this afternoon and share with you how Hadoop can help customers achieve their analytics needs. And with me is Saldich, who's VP of Marketing for Cloudera, and Ian Fyfe, who's Director of Product Management at Pentaho. So all three of us will be sharing with you our experiences and insights into how each of our respective companies are approaching the market with our respective solutions, and how we've congealed a comprehensive solution that has addressed our customers' analytics needs. So with that said, I'll turn it over to Alan, who will commence our presentation.
Hi there, thank you for coming. I'm going to be talking a little bit first about the big data problem and just defining what customers are seeing out there in the real world, and really a little bit about what's behind it. If I can get this thing to work. And really what's driving the growth of data in this phenomenon. It's a little bit of a buzzword, but it is a real thing as well as being a buzzword. So first of all, there's just more content in the world. The amount of data in the world is growing really faster than anything else. It's growing faster than Moore's Law. It's growing faster than the amount of storage available in the world. And it's coming from sources that didn't exist, many sources that didn't exist just a number of years ago. And it's coming in many more forms. So instead of just being operational data in relational databases, the data that's being stored in companies today are PDFs, photographs, videos, sound, Twitter feeds, Facebook data, machine data, surveillance videos, all kinds of sources that really were either analog in the past, or that just weren't really stored because there was no practical and economical way to store it. In addition, data is coming from more and more devices. All of the smartphones, tablets, cars, satellites, ships, planes, etc. all spew out data continuously, and that data can be mined to find great insights about your business and areas for efficiency. There's also people that are in your company who are consuming and creating vastly huge, larger amounts of data than they did just even a few years ago. And with all of that, you can get newer and better information if you have a way to store and analyze all that data. So in a nutshell, that's really the problem that Cloudera and with Dell try to solve. The opportunity for you is to gain a competitive advantage by learning how to handle all this data. And we're going to talk today about some common use cases. A few of them are listed here. But one of the simplest is the top one, data management. If you have a data warehouse, which most of our large customers do, the cost to store data in a data warehouse is quite expensive. It can be $10, $20, $50, even $100,000 a terabyte. Companies today are under constant pressure to expand their data warehouses, either because of compute load or just raw data. If you can take some of that workload and put it in a Hadoop cluster at 1/10 or even 1/100th of the cost, you can then free up your data warehouse to handle the highly interactive analytic workloads that it's best at, while saving a tremendous amount of money on your data storage. There's a number of other use cases that are very popular around advanced analytics, ETL optimization, and some others. And as you get into the world of Hadoop, you'll find that you may start with one of those initial use cases to solve one simple issue, and over time with that same cluster solve a whole array of other problems that you're facing. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Ian from Pentaho, and he's going to talk a little bit about their solutions.
Thank you, Alan. So I'm going to talk about some of the challenges around big data analytics. So you probably all heard of the term, the three V's of big data: volume, velocity, and variety. And really what that translates to, obviously, volume is kind of self-explanatory. We're talking about very, very large data volumes. But probably more important is the velocity, the fact you've got this data streaming off these devices, as Alan was talking about, at incredible speeds. And that's very hard to manage using conventional database technology, the ability to update and insert that data and keep up. And then also very important is the variety. A lot of this data is not structured data. We're talking about web logs, we're talking about application logs, we're talking about images, photos, video, and so on. So it's not traditional records or rows and columns. So again, the ability to handle this kind of combination of very large volume, very high velocity, and then complex data types is really one of the biggest challenges of big data. And then the ability to derive value across both the structured data as well as unstructured data. So you can't really analyze unstructured data directly. You have to be able to process that data, get it into a format where you can actually make sense of the data, and start to actually get some value out of that data. Really understand it, turn it into a structured format where you can analyze it. And then the ability to very quickly adapt to changes, to context changes. You may have start out with certain business questions, and over time, your questions have been able to be changed. With a fixed database schema, very, very hard to kind of do that. You've got to go back and adjust the schema. It takes days or weeks or even months to do that. But again, with big data, you need to be able to accelerate that, do that within hours or at least a day or two at most. Okay, so talking about existing big data technologies, current database solutions, really not up to the job. Again, these were mostly architectured, a decade or 2 decades ago, really not designed from the ground up for big data. In general with databases, you define the schema up front. You decide what questions am I going to ask, and then you kind of design that database schema in order to better answer those questions, which makes it very kind of inflexible. You come up with new questions, again you've got to go through this iteration, adapting that schema, and it's very, very painful. It takes a long, long time. And also traditional database technology, of course, is very, very expensive. We're talking, when you start to get to terabytes and petabytes, you're talking extremely large expenditures, to acquire that database technology and maintain it. And then if you look at current big data solutions, some of the emerging big data solutions, obviously that can handle the volume of velocity and so on, but really very, very complex and time consuming to set up and configure and maintain. You need to hire specialist developers who understand. You need to understand this technology, and tends to be fairly non-integrated. It's basically point solutions you're assembling yourself. And this is one of the great, what we're going to talk about in a moment, is one of the great benefits of the combined solution from Dell and Cloudera and Pentaho. The fact that we've assembled this complete integrated solution from end to end for managing and analyzing big data. I think that's it for me. So Dan, back to you.
Thank you, Ian. So what we've done at Dell is codify a complete solution that allows our customers to realize value instantaneously. And so when we talk about value, value means enabling a customer to take data that either to them or to their consumers doesn't represent how it can impact their business. But taking that data and giving them insight into how they can solve business problems is what, along with Dell, Cloudera, and Pentaho, have focused on in assembling the solution. So specifically, taking Pentaho's solution, which provides a tremendous amount of visibility and value from giving customers visualization into their data and allow them to run automatic analytic queries so that business consumers, engineering individuals that need to determine how data can help them bring products to market quicker is the value that Pentaho brings, and which is from Dell's standpoint brings tremendous value to its customers. Cloudera, as the market leader in providing Hadoop-based software and solutions to its customers, gives the customer 2 different primary value points. The first value point is a tried and true distribution of Hadoop called Cloudera Enterprise Edition, which has been tested, put through the rigors of an engineering cycle, testing, and community involvement and support, so that its customers can have confidence in an open source project such as Hadoop being used in a real life business environment where there's a multitude of data that's being ingested, processed, and managed by Cloudera. And along with what Dell is bringing to market has been described by Ian and Alan prior to my part of the presentation, is a complete solution which consists of optimized hardware, which can be defined based on the customer's requirement, whether it's an analytic specific requirement which might require a high number of cores, or a environment or a server configuration which would consist of a high number of disks, which would lead to more of a storage-specific requirement. So along with hardware configurations, along with software that our team has developed named Crowbar, which does three main things for Hadoop infrastructure. The first point is to lay down the groundwork for Pentaho and Cloudera so it can work out of the box instantaneously. So Crowbar will lay down an operating system, it will configure the network, it will configure BIOS and RAID configuration so that it's configured appropriately for these software stacks. The next thing we'll do is we'll lay down the bits of these specific technologies. So from an installation standpoint, depending on configurations and requirements, it can be very time consuming for an IT shop or for an application department within a major corporation. Crowbar minimizes that business impact, so we will install the bits automatically. What it also does is it lays down an operational foundation so that as the customer's Hadoop environment expands over time, servers, networking, upgrades to the Cloudera and Pentaho software products can again be introduced instantaneously into the environment. So along with the technology that Dell and Cloudera and Pentaho have collaborated on, a lot of it that our three companies share is a vision of how to get a customer that again is trying to define what their big data strategy is with best of breed practices and their experiences in helping a customer get to that starting point to the fruition of having a big data environment. So along with Dell, along with Cloudera and Pentaho, our respective services practices provide that added value. In addition to hardware, validated reference architectures that are a viewpoint of how to get started, but are by no means an opinion on a final solution. We have a number of customers that have started out with our reference architecture, but have scaled to hundreds of systems for the use of Hadoop and Pentaho. And along with services, collaborative services, and support between our three organizations, allow the customer to have confidence and experience in dealing with vendors that have been players in this market for a number of years. So to wrap things up, I'll turn it over to Alan.
Okay, you've heard a little bit about the problem of big data. You've heard a little bit about the joint solution of with Pentaho and Dell and Cloudera. I'm just going to walk through a few use cases to show you, well, okay, great, but what can I actually do with this stuff? So one example is a very large global bank, actually, credit card issuer. They had the goal of really understanding their customer better, really looking at their customers' buying behavior and how they could use that both for marketing purposes and operational purposes, but also to prevent abuse and fraud. They initially deployed this. The financial justification was an enterprise data warehouse incremental expansion replacements. In other words, the case I was talking about before, where they cut their expansion cost by 90%. The other benefit they saw is they found the largest case of fraud in the company's history once they had their Hadoop cluster up and running for a while. So they got really a double benefit with the single deployment. Another example is a nationally known media firm that have built a very large Hadoop cluster, and they have done it both to reduce costs and to meet their internal SLAs. They use it for advertising optimization and to serve up personalized web pages that are optimized to improve their click rates, their click-through rates of the advertisements on their website. And the last example is a mobile telecom company that is ingesting 50 to 60 terabytes of data every single day, operational data. They have over 100 petabytes of data in total in their Hadoop cluster. Just an incredible amount of data. This is a company that issues, that sells handsets and also provides a service. So the biggest benefit, I guess, for them is instead of analyzing what they used to do, which was taking a very small sample, about 1% of their data, and using that to make conjectures and to extrapolate insight from it, now they can actually store and analyze all of the customer data that's coming from the phones and from the service billing systems that they operate. And with that, they can make much more intelligent decisions about reducing customer churn, improving service, and extending offers to their customers. So those are just a few examples across the data, the analytics front that we see in our customer base. And with that, I will wrap it up, I think. And just summarize by saying, Hadoop is really a new, it's really a sea change in the way that companies are storing and processing vast amounts of data. And the phenomenon of big data is both a, there's definitely a buzz about it, but it's really happening. Customers are realizing that this data, this kind of backwash that they've been not able to store and just either ignoring or archiving, putting it on tape and never seeing it again, now can be stored and analyzed, and they can actually profit from that data. So with that, I'd like to thank my colleagues at Pentaho and here at Dell, and thank you very much for coming today. Thanks.